Bolt your windows. Lock your doors. Check your closets. Look under your bed. And then prepare yourself. For it's another episode of Dark Night of the Podcast. Whoa!
Troy, I need to start this review with a complaint. Not a complaint about the movie. It's nothing to do with the movie. It's my issue. It lies with streaming services that have classic pieces of cinema, mostly of horror cinema, low-budget, independent horror cinema specifically. They really need to get their shit together because I'm tired of watching great films in the lowest, grittiest resolution possible. I feel like the movie that we're about to discuss today, I had to watch through goggles covered in mud. But I know I like the movie nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I'm glad I bought the Blu-ray. I bought the Blu-ray of this film about 2 years ago at Texas Frightmare Weekend when Vinegar Syndrome first put it out. And when I saw it, I knew I had to have it because this was one that I saw, as a kid at the video store. It had a really deceiving box art to it. And when I had rented it, I had realized I had seen it before, like late night on like Showtime, and had loved it and just never knew what it was. So I got to watch this in all its Blu-ray glory, and let me tell you, it looked beautiful.
Did it? Listen, Here's the thing. I'm going to just put it out there to start. I really enjoyed the film, but I know I would enjoy it 10 times more if I could see what the fuck was going on. And I yearn to view this edition that you're talking about that was released, the Vinegar Syndrome release, because honestly, I could see the potential in this movie looking really great. With all the shadows and, it's just done really well. This movie, for being a low budget nothing, it's done really well. It's really fun. And this is a movie I too would want to seek out and view in high def and in the best resolution possible. And you said it's worth it, yeah?
It is worth it. It is worth it. It looks really good. So definitely check it out if you can get a hold of it. I'm sure you can.
Yeah. I love a good remaster. I do love that we're getting a lot of these classic films remastered and re-released. A lot of these titles that we've been wanting, these more obscure titles, you're seeing it more and more, and I'm all about it. Keep it coming, because I can't watch another good movie the way I just watched this one. Troma, your streaming service, get your shit together. What was that nonsense? You're not winning any points with me. Also, the box art of this movie, the original box art with that bullshit title, I highly prefer the title that you have with your re-release, The House on Tombstone Hill.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we should probably tell the audience what film we're doing in case they didn't listen to us last week, which shame on you if you did not. But because if you did, you know what we were doing. But we are covering the 1989 film, The House on Tombstone Hill, AKA probably much better known as Dead Dudes in the House, which is a horrific title.
The worst title ever.
With a more horrific box art to it. And we'll talk about why, but I think it's pretty blatantly obviously why. And then it's also known as The Dead Come Home. In fact, Vinegar Syndrome, they use all three titles for this film. It's really kind of confusing. It's not confusing, but it's really just interesting that they did what they did, because the Blu-ray package is under the title The House on Tombstone Hill. But when you open up the Blu-ray and take it out, the disc is Dead Dudes in the House with the original artwork on the disc with the guys in the convertible. And then when you put the Blu-ray in to play it, the title screen is The Dead Come Home. So they really use all three titles, which...
Oh my God.
Yeah. But you had never seen this, right? You said you had never heard of it.
Never. I had never seen it, never heard of it. And you know what's funny is I was watching it and I was feeling this weird sense of like familiarity And I've got to say that one of the first films I did, the director had to have seen this movie because the similarities between this film and a film I did called Elementary and Education and Death, insane. Insane. And it's down to the moments where they're like pounding on the windows, where like the windows are, as we'll get into this, like there are all these tropes, these the kids coming back as ghosts and everything. I highly feel like the director of Elementary and Education and Death ripped off this movie. And I get why. Because you know what? The storyline's thin. I don't really know what the fuck happened. I have no idea what the actual solution to what was happening. I have no idea what it was. I have no idea what that old woman's powers were, but it was entertaining as all hell. And as it went on, it got better and better, in my opinion. It's one of those movies, it's a grower.
It is a grower. And I feel like the first couple minutes of the movie, maybe the first 15 minutes of the movie, you're like, oh God, please make these annoying characters stop. But it does get better as the plot progresses and you get past kind of the first initial corny kill scene. It does get better. And then I feel like the film gets very dark and very atmospheric. I love the location. The house they use is creepy as fuck. It looks great. It is a very basic plot. It really reminds me of a film we covered, many moons ago now, Evil Laugh, about the group of kids that go to fix up this abandoned house where something horrible had happened years before, and they start getting killed off one by one, except this has a supernatural twist to it, which I don't know. So the film, you want us to talk about it, or is there anything going on that we want to talk about first?
God, I am really, this week I'm overwhelmed. It's the week before my 35th birthday. I'm having an existential crisis. Everything's crumbling around me, but it's okay. But we've kind of entered like a new push with Rebirth because our physical copy is going to be dropping soon. So we have all of this like fresh marketing, which is really great. And I'm really happy for it, but I'm so fucking exhausted. I have never devoted this much of my energy to anything in my life. So I'm at a point where my brain is in a coma, but my body's still actively moving. But it's a good place to be. I mean, hey, you know what? At least I have things to look forward to and things to be thankful for. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. We Houston Horror Film Festival, we have some great announcements coming for 2022. We got a new venue that I think people are going to really like. Much bigger. Film submissions, screenplay submissions are going to open up very soon, so keep an eye out for that. But moreover, I am excited. I leave for a little mini vacation Saturday. I'm heading to Cancun. You were just there not too long ago, so I'm headed there for about 5 days. So next week's episode may be a little late, just letting you know ahead of time, because unlike Roger, I'm not going to pack my microphone or anything like that to go.
You're smart. You're very smart.
So we will record when I get back, and it'll be good. We'll get caught back up. And then once I get back from then, I have 2 weeks before moving cross country. So yeah,
big things ahead, both vacation, relaxation, and migration. It's very exciting. And let me tell you, Cancun, man, it was a saving grace when I, going there a few weeks ago when I did, and just after all the shit and the nonsense, it was necessary. It was needed, and I needed to get away, and it really, it was soothing for the soul, and I know you're going to have a great time too, and you're going to come back with it. Sun-kissed tan. Ugh, all the boys are going to be all over you. Yeah, we will see.
We will see. I'm excited. It's going to be just a little me time, and I'm okay with that,
It's deserved. So, Daddy needs a break once in a while.
Daddy needs a break, yeah. But I'm excited. I will be excited to get back to our next episode, which we'll talk about at the end of this episode. Yes. Because I know what it's going to be, and it's exciting.
It's very exciting, yes.
But what about this? We have House on Tombstone Hill, a.k.a. Dead Dudes in the House, a.k.a. The Dead Come Home. And you know what, Roger? I don't even know which one I'm going to use for the title of this episode when I put the episode out. I don't even know what one to use. I guess
all of them.
I thought about how I know, right? I thought about House on Tombstone Hill, but I think more people know it as Dead Dudes in the House, because when I posted, I don't know if you saw, I posted that I was watching this. I posted the Blu-ray cover art.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised at how many people commented saying they love this movie. but most of them said dead dudes in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what it's known as. So maybe that's the first one, and then I'll do a little AKA house on Tombstone Hill.
You know, man, I gotta say it, and I know we're gonna, like, I mean, it's inevitable we're gonna talk about, like, the awkward promotion of having, 3 titles. Like, what do you do with that? But that poster art for Dead Dudes in the House, it just, after having seen this now and watching this and knowing what it is,
it's awful.
And, like, even the description, I read the description, and they, like, refer to them as hip-hop yups. Like, first of all, what is a hip-hop yup to begin with? And second of all, where is the hip-hop influence in this film whatsoever? There's none.
There's none. And we'll get it out there right now, because that's the biggest issue with this film is whoever came up with that box art for Dead Dudes in the House needs to be shot if they're still alive, because it's ridiculous. It makes zero sense. It's like, if you've seen it, it's like it's like these young yuppie guys wearing these like yuppie clothes in a convertible. And there's nothing like that in the film. The people in this film are very like rugged. They're wearing like work uniforms. I mean, they're ready to go to work on this house. And then it totally ignores the fact that there are females there too. So I don't know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's completely misinterpreting the product, and it shows like the importance of representation.
Well, correct marketing, because
yes,
you look at the box art and you think you're going to be in for some like cheesy comedy. And the film, while it has some, maybe I would say maybe unintentional comedic elements, the film by no means is a comedy at all. So shame on you, whoever designed that. But let's talk about the film. Let's get into it. The film opens in 1948, which, much like Pieces, remember last week? Peaches. Pieces. Pieces.
We're moving to the country, and we're going to get us a lot of pieces.
Pieces opened in the 40s. So I was like, oh, look at the connection there. But it's this awkward opening. It opens on this young woman's face as she's sipping lemonade. And her mother, this old decrepit lady, is walking back and forth with this dead body on the floor. And I think we're led to assume, which we find out, that she just killed this person that's on the floor. And there's this weird like 20s music playing, like Great Gatsby music playing in the background, as this woman just sits there sipping her lemonade, oblivious to the fact that there's a dead body on the floor. So, and the old woman's all like anxious and nervous, looking down at the body. It's really, and then it just cuts.
Yeah, it's very It doesn't give you anything. Like, for being an opening scene, you anticipate some like exposition of some sort, and it really, like, it's just a single shot. It shows her slurping that lemonade, and it cuts without a piece of dialogue, without anything being said. It really is like very brief and a very abrupt beginning to the film.
Yeah, and once she goes over to the record player and like shuts it off, and you get that screeching vinyl noise when like you pull it and you shut a record player off, and then it cuts and it says 40 years later, and we are introduced to 2 carfuls of people who are our main characters for the journey of the film. They show up to this house, which as I mentioned, is very creepy looking. Where whoever found the location deserves a lot of props, because this house does look very sinister and foreboding.
Yeah, it literally is the only location in the film.
It is the only location in the film.
Yeah, and oftentimes you'll have a film that they're restricted to one location, and it can become very repetitive. And this movie doesn't manage to ever feel that way, because the building is so big and vast, and there's so much to it. There's so much character to this location.
Yeah, I agree. It never feels like you are like claustrophobic, even though it is like one location. So we get introduced to our characters, and we have the character of Mark, who is the one who is apparently buying this house. For what reason, we don't know. We never know. We at least, like an evil laugh, we know that character was buying the house because they were going to make it into they wanted to make it into a nursery or an orphanage or something. We don't know why this young, like 22-year-old kid is buying this huge decrepit house in the middle of nowhere. But that's Mark, okay? And then we get his girlfriend, who right away needs to be slapped.
Oh my God.
Jamie.
This broad Jamie. In that damn, is it Janie? Either
Jamie.
way, I hate her. Jamie with an M. Okay. Jamie is wearing a lesbian rugby polo that is clearly made for a man. It is the least. There's nothing sexy about this movie whatsoever. Well, I mean, there's one scene that maybe is like kind of meant to be sexy, but the two focal girls in this, no.
Are frumpy.
Frumpy dumplings. They're frumpadumps.
They dressed them in the most unappealing attire you could ever imagine. But Jamie is just annoying. Right away, she's just bitching. She gets out of the car, bitch. Ow, it was 3 hours in this car. Couldn't we have left earlier?
Oh, and it's the shrill banshee voice just screaming at Mark.
So that's Mark and Jamie. And then you get Bob, who is like the quintessential like male alcoholic, but also like your macho. He's a carpenter. That's his trade. He has all his tools with him, and he's very proud and protective of his tools. And he's also kind of a dick, as we find out. And then we get Ronald, who is just there by himself. He's not attached to anybody.
But he's looking good. Whatever he's doing, he's looking good. That shirt, he's wearing this blue t-shirt and these like faded blue jeans. And I swear every inch of fabric hugs his svelte, muscular physique so well. He looks like he's sculpted from marble. He's such a pretty man.
He is, and it's just it's an interesting as the movie progresses. It's very interesting what they do with his character because it's not expected. Because they do go the route of doing something a little bit different with kind of the final survivor, which I appreciated. For the most part, and we'll talk about that. I do find the ending a little, but so then we get him, Ronald, and then we get Steve and his girlfriend Linda. And Steve
he's a pain in my ass.
He is a pain in the ass. He's another one of these characters that I'm like, that's what I'm saying. When the film starts and you get introduced to this group, you're like, okay, I don't know if I can sit and watch 120 minutes of these people because I'm already annoyed by them.
But again, they're growers as well. This cast, let me say, like, they're not really fleshed out per se. It's not like you get a ton of backstory on them, and a lot of them are kind of annoying at times. But as the movie progresses, I feel that this cast grows on you, and I feel like a lot of them are given moments to shine that even if their characters are annoying, they're still human enough that you don't despise them. Like Steve specifically, such an obnoxious character, has a very cool series of events that happen to him that he actually is great in. And you really start to realize, like, understand who this character is. And yeah, he's a pain in the ass, but like we all know a Steve. Like, that's the thing about these characters. We all know a Bob, that's the name of the carpenter, right? Is it Bob?
Bob, yeah.
Bob. Yeah, we all know a Bob. We all know a Steve. We all know a Linda. Like Linda, too. Linda actually has some really redeeming sequences. There's one scene in particular where I actually feel very bad for Linda. And written to be a likable character. So I actually feel that as the movie progressed towards the end of it, the focal group of characters, even though I disliked how some of them acted, I didn't hate this cast. I really didn't.
Problem is there's not a lot of depth to the characters. There really isn't. Right. Like I said, you don't know what their backstory is. Why are they there helping Mark? And sometimes it comes off as they're not even like friends. I don't know. It's real awkward, but like you said, they do grow on you. But right away, they find a tombstone in the yard, outside the yard as they're searching the grounds, and it says Abigail Leatherby on it, and of course Bob, being the dick that he is, smashes the tombstone, and right away it cuts to the old woman waking up, like, because he smashed her tombstone.
That shot of the old woman sitting up into frame, when you really see that makeup clear for the first time, it's rough to look at, man. There's a lot of things to take away from this movie that are good, that I like, but the makeup on the focal villainess would not be one of them. It is played by a man.
It is played by a man.
It's played by Mark.
It's played by Mark. I was just going to say it's played by Mark.
And kudos, like truly, cool. But I think that the cracks really show for this being like a very low budget indie. I think that is one area where you could see the very low budget, and I give him credit for trying to pull it off, because she does some physical things. I get why they put a younger person in the role, but God, sometimes that makeup is just hard to look at, and because of that, hard to take seriously. The dubbing as well, the voice as well, that because the older woman, as we've learned more about her, has a voice that is clearly dubbed in, and it's very unnatural. It pulls me out of the moment sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm going to say the Blu-ray only intensifies the flaws that the film has in terms of its special effects. Because when I first saw the film, I thought it was actually pretty gory. I remember seeing this film when like I said, I was a teenager, maybe 14, 15 years old, and thinking it was super gory. Which it is, but when you are watching it now in Blu-ray where it's been cleaned up and whatnot, you can definitely see a lot of the flaws. And yeah, the old woman's makeup is one of them, but I still find that character rather unsettling and creepy.
Yes, and also as the film goes on, I yet again this movie in every aspect, I I feel it's stronger towards the end than it is in the beginning. And with her and her overall presence and the creepiness factor. I liked her more towards the end than I did in some of these earlier scenes when I really didn't understand what was going on.
So not only do they find a tombstone after, and Bob breaks it, and the group yell at him. They're like, "Hey, you dickhead, why'd you do that?" Which is they should have yelled at him. I mean, why would you just break a tombstone? But they also find a noose hanging from a tree. Now, I don't know about you, but that should be a red flag. But it's not. It's not.
Yeah, I can't think of anything more foreboding than a random noose hanging ominously from a tree with no explanation.
Yeah, it is crazy. And so in the meantime, Bob is whining about beer. He has no beer, and he gives one of the characters, what's the guy that goes to get the beer?
Joe. It's Joe.
Joseph.
Yeah.
He gives Joseph money to go get him beer, so that gets Joseph out of the group for a little bit, which comes into play. They can't get the door open initially, which again, all these little things starting to, I'd be like, maybe we should just go with this. There's a noose, there's a tombstone, we can't get the door open, let's just head back home. But no, they finally get the door open because lovely Ronald is able to wiggle the handle just right.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that you can wiggle a lot of things just right, if you know what I mean. I just gotta say, with that whole thing with Joe getting the alcohol, Bob is a barely functioning alcoholic. And you said this, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but you really start to see it around here, this whole sequence of them entering the building. He is borderline abusive toward this group of people.
Yeah, he is. And again, that was my comment, is like, they don't seem like they were friends. Like, who would hang around this guy? Right. He's really just a dickhead. There is not one time in this film that he is treating any of these people nicely. Yeah. As we see, they get inside and the place is a mess. It's a disaster. It looks like it hasn't been lived in for years. And Jamie is still bitching. Jamie is bitching incessantly through this film.
She does nothing other than bitch.
Because Ronald lights up a cigarette. She's like, "Do you have to smoke?" And he's like, "Hey, I have to smoke before I work." And then there is the scene where Steve is just whistling that tune, and Bob goes into a rage.
Yeah, it really triggers him. His reaction is unnatural, probably due to the alcoholism. Again, his anger is completely uncalled for.
Yeah, he is not happy about Steve whistling, and Ron tries to confront him about it. And I feel like, I don't know if you got this, there's like maybe a little bit of sexual tension between Ron and Bob, because those two are going at it through most of the movie, but it's real awkward and subtle in terms of like the glances they're giving each other and like how they linger on each other's stares when they're like having these conflicts. I'm like, what is going on? I wish we would have gotten more with that. I don't know. I felt like something was there and I don't know if it was there purposely or if it was just something the two actors brought to their performance, but I thought there was something there. There was something there. I don't know. I don't know if you caught it or not, but
I feel like it's one of those things, all things considered, we are a queer horror podcast. And very often I look for things to make commentary on or things to dissect between male characters that could be kind of queer. And sometimes I'm maybe pushing it or forcing it. This film, honestly, has some serious homoerotic vibes between several pairings of characters that I wasn't even seeking it out. I just saw certain things happen and I was like, whoa, that felt really gay. Like, that felt gay. And there's several moments that feel very gay, down to the elderly woman being played by a man in drag. But there's somebody involved with this. I bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow that, that someone involved with this movie was a homosexual man. Because there is gaiety to be seen from the tight shirts, the tight jeans, to the glances the boys are giving each other when they're saving each other's lives. It's just gaiety. Gaiety all over the place.
Especially at the end of the film. And we'll talk about that when we get there. I have a lot to say about that. So, yeah. So, and then his toolbox randomly falls over and causes him to go in another flying right. He's like screaming at what happened? Who did you see what happened? It's like, dude, your toolbox fell over. That's what happened. Like, why are you like threatening these people about your, it's ridiculous.
Around that point is when I, as one of the friends, would like gather the others and say, guys, it's time we have an intervention with Bob. He is crossing the line.
He has anger management issues that need to be resolved before this weekend goes any further.
Absolutely.
Because he is a dickhead.
Yeah, he will be the one killing somebody.
It's just just nonstop. It's just these barrages of him treating these people like shit, because right after his toolbox falls over, Ron actually offers to help him pick it up. And he's like, no, stay away. We'll get it later. And then that poor frumpy girl, Linda, brings this tool, and she's being very sweet. She's like, oh, where's this plug in at? And he's like, you stupid bitch, it doesn't plug in. It runs on batteries because there's no electricity in here. He just is like, just starts verbally assaulting this poor woman holding this drill, wanting to know how...
And not only that, but he's like, there's no electricity in here. You're blah. And she's like, yes, there is. There's a light on right there. And like they like look over and a light is on. It's so like he's wrong also. So yeah.
And does he apologize?
No, of course not, because he's a fucking alcoholic and they never hold themselves accountable. But yeah, no, everyone is really actually very nice to Bob. There's no reason for him to be such a prick with everybody.
Well, no. And as this is happening, as Bob is like going on this tirade toward this poor innocent Linda, he notices the old lady. She has come into the living room on her little cane, and the whole group turns to her and sees her, and they're like, ugh. And
she is not discreet.
She's not discreet, and they are understandably, I'd be confused. What is this 100-year-old woman doing in this old abandoned house that we just bought? And she doesn't say anything. They're asking her hey, can we help you? You're not supposed to be in here. And she's just ignoring them. And again, Bob, with his rage, he's like, if she doesn't stop staring at us, I'm going to go over there and smack her. I'm like, really, Bob, this is a 100-year-old woman. Like, that's your first reaction to this poor woman, not trying to say, hey, ma'am, are you all right? Did you escape a nursing home? What's going on with you?
Do you have dementia? Why are you in this abandoned house? No, its first response is violence. That makes sense. I mean, honestly, he would have been in the right if that were the case, all things considered. But nobody's really going to suspect this old woman of being anything more than what she appears to be. A very, very weathered old woman who is also apparently 6'8". Because she has to hunch over at all times just to be at the same height of everybody else. It's I would be far more suspicious. It's very suspect to see this woman in her gingerbread crafting attire, to be just in the middle of this house. And after she goes, like, they're kind of questioning it, but they're kind of like, man, that was weird. Anyways, let's get back to work.
Yeah, they tell her she has to leave, and she turns and walks away, but like, it's really funny because Mark wants to follow her to make sure she left. This woman is literally walking at a snail's pace, but she somehow has managed to make it upstairs into a different room, like way ahead of Mark, who is a young 22-year-old kid. The timing there, I thought it was funny that this old woman was able to get upstairs to the attic before Mark even was able to start walking towards her. I'm like, okay. And at this moment, then, of course, Bob, because he acts like everyone has exasperated him so much, he has to go get fresh air. He's like, oh, I have to get fresh air. But what happens? None of the doors will open. And we are then treated to a 20-minute montage of people trying to open the door. This everyone
tries, and they try like you go through it. You'll like cut away to something, and you'll cut back, and they'll be like using a bar of wood, or they'll like be throwing themselves against it. Like it just keeps going and going and going. No success to no avail.
Yeah, this is when editing would have really come into play. We don't need to see every single character trying their tricks to open this door, which obviously is not opening, because then it cuts to fucking Bob trying to drill the son of a bitch open, and it's still not opening. In the meantime, Jamie, lovely Jamie in her oversized polo, goes upstairs to get Mark, right? And she is exploring these different rooms. And in one bedroom, there is the broken tombstone lying on the bed.
How did that get there?
I don't know, but very foreboding. But she acts like it's foreboding. But I know, but she just looks at it and acts like it's no big deal.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, when she goes out into the hallway, there is blood all over the walls leading up to the third floor. So whatever happened to Mark certainly happened rather quickly, because not much time has passed. And so she follows the blood up to the attic, third floor, and it leads to this room that's locked. So she has to get a piece of wood and bust the door down.
These are the most physical characters I've seen in a movie. Like everybody, like without hesitation, is willing to like bust a door in. Like everybody's beating things to get through a door or through a window. Like I will say, like everybody in this is trying. They're trying. Like they're not incompetent people. This house is just magical. I think that needs to be like clarified to the viewers. This house, pretty quick right off the bat, you realize that something's afoot. Like there's another spell or something going on here.
Yeah, think of like, I mean, you're trying to describe this film because it is a slasher film, I would say. Definitely it's a slasher film, but it also has definite Evil Dead vibes and a definite Night of the Demons vibes.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Yeah, this house is obviously possessed. And this old woman is obviously some sort of paranormal demon thing that has superpowers and can't die. It's very much Night of the Demons. That's a lot of what this film reminded me of, was kind of Night of the Demons, especially with the characters dying and then coming back. But this is the first time that we get some interaction with the old lady, and it's actually pretty creepy, because once Jamie gets in the room, she's looking around, she sees this like old, like little Bible she's flipping through, and the old lady appears right behind her, holding a knife, and in her old lady voice is like,
I know about your boyfriend.
And that's exactly what it sounds like, Troy.
Yeah, I know.
He's dead.
Yeah. This woman is not holding back. She is straightforward. One of the first things she says is, I've killed somebody. Like, she is not even trying to hide the fact that she's dispatching teenagers left and right.
No, she has this little giggle after she says everything too, where she's like,
I killed it.
And Jamie's like, what the fuck, you're lying. And she's like, no, I'm not. What, did you see all that blood? That's his blood.
She finds it hilarious. She loves it.
And of course, Jamie's like, I'm going to kill you with this board.
Jamie is really quick to wield a bar of wood. And she is a character who starts off very, very unlikable, but as things start to proceed through the course of the film, I feel she kind of redeems herself, especially after her boyfriend kind of disappears. There's not really a focal girl, is the thing, like there's not like a lead girl whatsoever in this movie. You just have Linda and Jamie, and neither of them really have like the presence to be the featured female. But once Jamie's kind of past that whole like bitching, complaining phase, I don't mind her as much.
Yeah, I agree. She actually gets out of the room. She goes past the old lady and gets out of the room, and she runs into Mark, who is now bloodied, coughing up blood, and is being very confrontational to her. And what I gathered from this scene, and you probably did too, because I know we think a lot of times, is they were really, really trying to recreate the stairway scene from The Shining with Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall, right down to the dialogue where he's like, what about my responsibilities? And she's swinging this board at him and he's coming towards her. And then there's the whole part where he's like, I can't wait to see what goes on in that brain of yours. I'm going to take that and I'm going to bash your brains in and see. They were really trying to rip off the stairwell scene from The Shining. And it doesn't really work because this dude is no Jack Nicholson.
No. And I think, yeah, his act, I mean, he's not bad, but the thing that really, I think, doesn't work for the specific sequence is, out of all the characters, Mark has the least exposition and the least development. He literally maybe has 5 lines before we get to this moment. And so for him to suddenly have this big, brash, confrontational moment with his girlfriend, well, we really haven't had enough development between the two of them to really see the contrast, in his personality. All we really see is that, yeah, he's acting kind of irrational and he's bleeding, but we've spent no time with this guy. We don't care about him. It makes sense now knowing that he for some strange reason, played the elderly woman. I see exactly what happened here, and it was they had to basically kill this character off, but in a way that's off camera because you can't have them on camera at the same time, obviously, even though I'm sure that could have been tricked. For whatever reason, they couldn't come up with a way to do it. So you have this weird introduction of him as a zombie, but the way that the zombies are portrayed in this, they have personalities, they talk, there's dialogue, they're funny, they're witty. It was, if anything, it was a little confusing. It really is a bummer that there's not a strong first kill with this character, because I think that would have really gelled more and solidified exactly what was going on and why it was impactful,
But after this whole shining homage, if you want to call it that, it ends with her doing exactly what Shelley Duvall did to Jack Nicholson. She actually whaps him in the head with the board as he's trying to grab it, and he falls, and that's about the end of it. That's the last we see of him. So I'm assuming her hitting him in the head with this flimsy board killed him. I don't know. Because then she goes downstairs and there's a scene where while she's doing that, the guys downstairs are they get the bright idea about, well, if the doors don't open, maybe we should try the windows. So they actually start beating on the windows and try and open the windows, and the windows don't open either or won't even break. So it becomes apparent that they're trapped in this house, and then all of the shutters in the house start flapping. Flapping, flapping, flapping. And then they all shut.
And they're really shut because there's a dramatic zoom in on several of them where it's shut, and they all close, and they're not going to open again for anybody because it's magical. But yeah, I'm happy we get to a certain point where you're kind of okay, we're past the attempting to escape. You kind of know that you're not going to bust these windows in. So they take a moment before they eventually again start beating on doors and windows, because that's a consistent throughout all of this. But they were really starting to piss me off with that door and window nonsense. It just kept going and going. Yeah.
It's so long. It's so long. Yeah, so after the 20-minute door pounding scene, Jamie comes back downstairs and tells the group that Mark is dead, but she doesn't seem that upset about it.
She's pissed. She's just pissed. And she's pissed at Mark, which understandable, he tried to kill her, but she's just more annoyed than anything.
Yeah, she's the old lady says she killed him, and he tried to kill me, but he's dead upstairs, so oh well. At the same time, because we remember Joseph, right? Joseph has come back from this beer run. So apparently he found a convenience store pretty close to this isolated house. He comes back with the beer, but he cannot get into the house. It's all locked up. All the shutters are closed, and he is understandably wondering what the hell is going on. In the meantime, the group is inside the house, not knowing that Joseph's outside, and Bob is leading this. Of course, Bob is leading this. He's trying to get them all weapons. And he is just ecstatic about the fact that they are going to be able to bash people's brains in with all of these various weapons. He even makes Steve this handheld, he takes the circular saw, and puts a handle on. And he's like, yeah, you can fuck somebody up with that, motherfucker. Come on.
They love that fucking saw. That saw is consistent throughout the whole film. If Freddy Krueger has his damn blade gloves, the elderly woman in this movie wields a saw mitt, which is what I've dubbed it, a saw mitt, because it's on the hand and they use it to slash at people. It's very weird, but okay, it's fine.
And then it cuts back outside to Joseph. He's trying to get inside, and he obviously can't. And he's like, you know what? I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm leaving. But as he's leaving, one of the upstairs window shutters pop open. And it gets his attention. The window actually opens up by itself, and the shutters open. I don't know about you, but I would probably still leave. Because that's just odd. Why would the window open by itself? Regardless, he steps off screen and somehow, somewhere gets a ladder.
He procures this ladder, this massive ladder out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's really out of nowhere. He literally steps off screen and then comes back with this massive aluminum ladder that he proceeds to put against the house and climb up the window. As he's climbing, we see the old lady has come to the window, and she is watching him come up the ladder, and she has her handy machete.
A machete so large. Like, this woman apparently takes regular vacations to the tropics or to the rainforests or something that requires her macheteing through great foliage, because it is the largest machete I've ever seen in my life.
He comes up the ladder. He gets, he puts his hands into the windowsill, and he's trying to get in, and he accidentally kicks the ladder away from the window. So now he's hanging on the window edge, the edge of the window. And the old lady comes to the window, and she's just laughing at him. And he's like, "Can you help me?" And she's like, "No."
She's such a tease, this old broad. What she lacks in, like, overall, I don't know, effective fear factor, she makes up for with witty sarcasm and humor. I mean, this dame is cracking jokes. It's almost like a Freddy Krueger, like, light. She's got, like, little jabs at everybody. You wouldn't expect it because she's so old and, like, arthritic and bent over, but she's cracking him left and right.
Yeah, she's spry. He's like, aren't you going to help me? And she's like, "No." And she proceeds to chop his hands off with said machete.
This is the point in the movie, and I literally noted it. I said, I'm genuinely intrigued now. Because, like, up to this point, like, it's been standard fare. Like, the usual suspects, kids trapped in an abandoned building, the usual scenarios, people go missing, the unusual villainess, I'll give it that. She had my eye, not for all the right reasons, but, that's neither here nor there. But once we got to this sequence regarding Joe, who I, up to this point, forgot existed, to be completely honest, I was drawn in. I thought this whole sequence leading up to him climbing up the ladder, the whole thing of him dangling, you can hear the sound of his feet hitting against the side of the siding of the house. It's very, like, desperate. And then the effect, honestly, at least when, watched in the quality that I watched it, the effect actually looked pretty fantastic. Now, I can't speak for the updated, higher quality re-release that's come out, because I wouldn't be shocked, like you said, that some of these effects don't look as great when they're crystal clear. That doesn't surprise me, based off the old face makeup alone. But the sequence itself, I thought, was phenomenal.
It still looks pretty good. This particular kill still looks pretty good. And it's pretty nasty. I mean, after his hands are cut, he falls to the ground, and his hands are, like, still clutched to the end of the windowsill. And she, like, knocks him down with the machete so that his severed hands, like, fall on top of him. It's a pretty brutal death, because then not only is cutting his hands off not good enough, she proceeds to find this huge metal pole. That is one thing. These people in this film can just find these weapons and ladders and everything just willy-nilly. They're just everywhere, because she has this, like, huge pole that she actually drops out the window onto him, and it impales him through the chest. And it, again,
she doesn't just drop it. She, like, full on, like, vaults it.
Oh, she does. It's like one of those, whoosh. She vaults it down, and it impales him in the chest. And there is this really effective shot of him laying there with the pole impaled out of his chest, and it just, blood is gushing out of it, and his handless limbs are flapping. It's pretty brutal. I think this is the point where you realize the movie is a lot more darker than what you would have thought from the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, I realized after this sequence that this movie had the potential to surprise me. Up until this point, I was, like, kind of worried that it was just going to be I felt like I had predicted everything I was going to see before it happened. When especially after she knocks his hands off and they drop onto him, I was like, oh, this is pretty violent. Like his hands are gushing blood, and yeah, it made it clear to me that this movie was capable of more, and capable of more it certainly is, because it just continues to surprise me.
Yeah, because after this particular death scene, and obviously the people in the house, the group does not know that Steve was just brutally murdered. They actually, with their weapons in hand, they go looking for the old lady because Jamie has told the group the old lady has killed Mark, and she's gonna kill us if we don't go find her. So they actually go all looking for her with all their weapons. They go upstairs and are like examining the different rooms, the different bedrooms upstairs. And Steve, who has become basically a worthless, just is cowering back. He's not helping anything. He's really just pathetic. He is like not going into any of the rooms with them. He's like, being all scared and obviously, okay, whatever, but it's pretty pathetic, because then they go into this bedroom and he actually gets locked out of the room. So he gets separated from the group. He's in the hallway. They're locked in this bedroom, and they are basically telling him to go find the old lady to kill her. And he is just a bumbling mess of a person that is not going to take charge to go kill anybody, because he can hardly control himself. He is just shivering and shuddering and then the old lady shows up.
And she's beckoning him. She's like, come with me. And he's like, guys, she's telling me to go with her. And they're like, go. And he's like, absolutely fucking not. And I love it because while all this is happening, Jamie's like, kill her. Like she's just screaming for him to like murder this old woman. This is when she starts winning me over. I'll be real. Jamie is speaking my language. But I gotta say, this sequence, I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if it's maybe the way that they started separating the characters through this like supernatural energy in the house. I love this whole sequence. I think Steve's character, even though, like I said before, we all know a Steve, that bumbling, fumbling, uncomfortable, like spoiled white boy, like he plays it very well. The actor in this role, this is, I would say, his strongest moment. And like when he keeps looking back and he's like, she's there and she's watching me. And like, I believe him. And it is very actually creepy. The old woman's just in the shadows waiting. Like it's a creepy sequence. It's simple. The kids are trapped in the room. He's all by himself. He has no other fucking choice but to go follow her. And it's just a very well executed sequence, I think.
It is. She tells him, it's your turn. Come on, come with me. And he does. I don't know that I would have, but I mean, what else are you going to do? You're separated from your friends. You don't know. But at this point, you have to know that something's up with this old lady. I just would not be as gung-ho of going with her as he was. But he does. And in fact, he reminds me, I just want a sidetrack here, because for a second, I thought it could have been the same actor. He reminds me so much of a character in The Mutilator, Ralph. Remember, have you seen The Mutilator?
I've not. You're going to be so mad at me.
Okay. Well, for those of you who have seen The Mutilator, Ralph, the character of Ralph, this character of, what's his name?
Steve.
Steve reminds me of Ralph in The Mutilator. Look-wise, everything. I was like, could this be the same actor? It's not, but very similar. Sorry, that's what I was thinking when I was watching this movie. Anyways, so Steve goes downstairs with the old lady, and on the way there, he runs into Joseph, who now has his hands attached.
But there's wounds. There's like full cuts around them.
There's wounds, but they're attached now. And then he has the pole through him, and he is just acting like nothing's wrong. He is like, hey, she's going to get you. And he pulls out the pole and basically tells Steve to go to his fate. And he's not very shy about telling him it's going to hurt like hell. So go in there. It's your turn.
Yeah, I really, I was not like necessarily charmed or impressed with the first zombie reveal, with Mark. And as we discussed earlier, I thought the whole way they introduced the zombie aspect was lackluster. This sequence, when I said that I like this sequence of events, I like the whole thing leading up to what happens with Steve. This conversation, I love. I love that the approach that they take with these zombies, as people are dying, they're coming back. You see them again, and they still have aspects of their personalities, but they're evil. But they also have like their vices too. Like they are, their quirks, all their little elements of even obviously what happens with Steve. Well, you see Steve as a zombie, and he very much has Steve's personality, but a dark version of it. And you see that with all the characters, and the way Joseph plays his character as a zombie, I thought this scene was great. I love the sense of humor. I love like the dark, cruel sense of humor. I think most of the actors in this movie are far more likable as dead people because they get to have some fun with it. You can tell these actors are having fun with it. And this sequence really just like got me jazzed because I was like, obviously we know what's going to happen. Steve is next to go and it's going to be bad and it is going to hurt. And it got me so excited for the next moment.
And it doesn't disappoint. It doesn't disappoint because after Joseph basically ushers Steve off to his fate, what happens is the old lady shows up and she's coming towards him slowly and he has that circular saw thing and he's like not really doing much. He's not really trying to defend himself. He's just like, stay away from me. Stay away from me. I don't want to hurt you, but I will if you come closer. Just stay. But at that point, I'd be hitting the bitch in the head with this thing, and he's not. He's backing away, and then he trips and falls, and like instantaneous, she is on top of him. How she became so quick? She just jumps on him, and she impales his limbs, both his hands and both his legs, to the floor with knives. Just whoosh, 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 whoosh. And it looks like it hurts, especially the one through the leg. And he is just screaming, like he is selling the pain on this. He is screaming bloody murder. It's pretty effective and pretty like painful to watch because the actor is selling it big time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one thing I really like about the kills, about a lot of the kills that you see on camera, is they let them breathe. Like some of these kills are very like drawn out moments. Like there's not a lot of cutaway. And what I will say though, what almost is the downside is the moments, the characters they choose to have their kills or their reveals off camera, because there are two specific characters I'm thinking of. It really makes for a letdown, because when you see what they're capable of doing with some of these kills, even as a low budget movie, even if the effects aren't always the nail on the head, the execution of it and the pacing of it is really phenomenal. And this whole sequence, like I said, the whole thing from the hallway to the coming downstairs, the moment with Joe, it completely pays off. Like you said, the actor that plays Steve is selling the moment, and the build up to this is gnarly. It's so gross. The one thing that leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I really hate, the dubbing. I hate the giggles and the mumbles and the audio of the old woman, because she's always like, she's like a chipmunk. She's like, and it drives me fucking crazy, cuckoo bananas, because it's so like separate from what's going on. It does not sound authentic at all. So that really like, I have to watch it with like earmuffs at times because I can't stand listening to her. But the sequencing itself, phenomenal.
It's great. There is just a little bit of disjointedness, I think, with the film, because there are moments where this old lady seems to be like have strength and have, and it basically is like a super villain. She can just get in there and just move quickly and move stealthily and jump on him and have him pinned to the floor within a matter of seconds. But then most of the film, she is literally hunched over, barely can walk with this cane. So it's weird that if they were going to make her this stealth, character, they should have just did it throughout the whole film, because it really doesn't play well where one scene she can barely walk and is like stumbling with her cane and hunched over, and then the next she has these superpowers where she's like literally kicking two guys' asses at the same time and it's not even phasing her. It's a little bit, like I said, it's a little jarring, but I mean that's a minor complaint, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's where like the indie shows is in the storytelling, and the continuity of certain things, like what you just said. I think that's where for all of like its charm and its areas that impressed me, there's also things where I was like, ooh, that seemed like a really like a poor choice or almost like an amateur mistake. I'm really confused why they would make this choice. Why would they choose to not explain this? You know, as we will get into more as the movie progresses.
Yeah, because the old lady, and again, this death lingers quite a bit. You're right. This lingers quite a bit. We get a lot of time spent with Steve as he is impaled on the floor, and his fate is learned because the old lady appears with a circular saw and comes towards him with it, and then it cuts, and we cut to the group in the bedroom, and they just hear him screaming in pain, and we know what's happening. They kind of don't. Once he's dead, the door opens to the room and they're able to run downstairs, but his body's gone and all they find is the dining room where he was at just covered in blood. Blood one end of the room to the other. It's just a bloody mess. Now this is where, I don't know, I was really curious about what you thought about this because this is the point where the film cuts and we are introduced to 2 new characters.
Ugh.
Yeah, we've had this happen before, and we've talked about this before. We had this happen with Demons. Remember where Demons halfway through cuts and you're introduced to these like punk rock characters? I would say the two characters that we're introduced to in this film are by no means as annoying as those, but it's always a questionable thing when a film thinks halfway through that we have to be introduced to characters that really have no connection to us thus far in the film, really have no backstory. We really don't care about them. We've spent the half the movie caring about these kids that are in this house. Why do we need 2 new ones to come in when ultimately they don't really do anything? Well, one of them does, sort of, but...
Right.
Anyways, it's 2 young kids. I'm imagining they're supposed to be like young teenagers, right?
Yeah.
I like the shot. The shot is just a static shot of the silhouettes of them against the dark sky. And you just hear one say, hey, let's go to the Leatherby house. And the other one's like, no, I don't want to go to that house. It's haunted. I've heard stories. And basically the other one pressures him into going to the house. And he's like, if you were a friend, you would come with me to this house. So I like the shot, but I don't know about this whole thing with these 2 boys, especially the one.
Yeah.
The one that's in the football jersey.
Yeah. My big question, and again, like when I was saying, like some of the things that feel like a little amateur mistakes, this is one of them. And my big thing is the cast isn't so overwhelmingly large that you couldn't have just included these additional characters within the group. Because I see the purpose of having 2 characters that break off and are separate from the others and don't know what's going on. You know, they could have easily adjusted the storyline just to have had 2 characters kind of going off and doing their own thing who are just not aware of the plot developments up to this point. But what they do, like, I think what they do that shoots them in the foot is that they introduce these 2 characters, and it's exactly what you said. At this point, I'm starting to care about the cast. And now you introduce these 2 other characters with no backstory, exposition. We have no understanding of who they are. They're just 2 random kids, 2 random boys who are just breaking in for shits and giggles. And it's just automatically they feel unnecessary and they feel like secondary. And if you have secondary characters, why do I want to, at this point in the movie, why do I want to see other characters get layered in who are going to make it, further than the predominant characters when I care about those other characters so much more? These kids have nothing going for them. There's no aspects that really tie them to the story that makes them important. They're just kind of randoms, and it really it does take away from it for me. It gave me the exact same vibe as what you said about Demons, completely on the same page.
Yeah, and it really doesn't help that one of them is a horrible actor, but we'll get to that. So as the boys head off to the Leatherby house, the group now is in the basement, and this is what we talked about at the beginning of the episode. I do like their use of this house. They really make it seem much larger than what it probably is, because there are sequences that take place in all of the different areas of the house. So it's not like stuck in one specific location. So now they're in the basement trying to find a way out. And Linda comes across a newspaper article about something that had happened in the house. And this is about the only point that we get any sort of backstory or exposition, and it's still not enough to explain everything that's going on. But apparently the old lady, someone years ago had broken into her house and stabbed her 37 times. 11 times in the neck, they make that clear. And she lived, right? I don't know. I don't know how you'd live being stabbed in the neck 11 times and then
That person had really bad aim.
they must have been like,
stabbing.
they must have stabbed her with a safety pin. I don't know. But then after she gets home from the hospital, her neighbor had come over to give her well wishes, and she ends up stabbing him 37 times and 11 times in the neck. So that was our opening scene, right? That's what our opening scene was. And 4 days later, she dies of a heart attack. And the daughter then digs her mother's body up and buries it in the yard, hence the tombstone at the beginning. And then she hangs herself from a tree, hence the noose in the beginning of the film. However, I would feel like if someone hung themselves and the police and the ambulance had to come and get the body down, they're not just going to leave the noose hanging there. But they do, apparently. This does not explain any of the supernatural elements that run through this film at all.
No, and I have a huge issue with that. I'll be honest. Like this, there's a few things about this scene that piss me off. First of all, I didn't dislike Linda. I was really thinking, oh, they're starting to give me some maybe like focal girl, potential final girl vibes. She's giving us the narration. She's giving us the backstory. She's not that bad of an actress. I like her. I mean, I don't like her bangs, but I like her. So yeah, second of all, the story, absurd. And we've heard plenty of absurd stories as explaining the who's, what's, and whys of the events that are transpiring in a horror movie. But this one, it's too convoluted. I mean, I'm sorry. It's a lot of nonsense. On top it off, not to spoil things for our listeners, but it's never addressed again. That's all we're given. We're not given anything more.
No.
It's no longer a topic of discussion. The backstory of how things are happening and why, like you said, they're supernatural, they don't even touch on it. They feel they don't need to. And I'm sorry, based off the events that do transpire in this film, it severely requires some heavy explanations.
I would think so. And because I truly believe that this film was trying to homage The Evil Dead and Night of the Demons, those films do give you sort of a backstory or at least an explanation of why things are happening. And the fact that this one just totally ignored even attempting to doing that and just giving us some story about an old lady being attacked and then killing her neighbor. How does that explain the fact that of what's going on, that people are turning into zombies and these characters are still living in this house that apparently haven't aged, because in the next scene we see her daughter is still in this house apparently she hasn't aged a bit. So are these ghosts or what's going on? It's not explained. I mean, whatever. I mean, this film is still fun, but I think kind of lazy. I mean,
oh yeah, that's a good word. And we ain't watching this film for the storytelling. Let me tell you, listeners, this movie is not going to give you some groundbreaking script or something you haven't seen before. What it's going to do is it's going to keep you very entertained. But if you're somebody who gets like pissed off or annoyed by like thin plots and irrational storylines, then this may not be the movie for you, because what you said about the daughter is something like we're about to get into that, but I have a huge issue with an element of that as well, and we'll touch on it.
Yeah. So after they tell the story, again, there's no follow-up because it just cuts. It cuts away from that scene to the boys now outside the house trying to get in through the basement, the cellar doors. And the one boy is like, oh, well, we need to break this lock. And the other kid takes he's carrying this pole the whole fucking movie. He bashes the lock with the pole and opens the lock and opens the basement door. And the kid is like, why am I even friends with you? And I'm like, dude, yes. Why are you friends with this fucking nitwit? Because already he's been in the movie 30 seconds and I fucking hate him. He's like, oh, because I'm a great guy. No, you're fucking not. You're a horrible little shit. That it basically is getting your friend murdered. Okay. So they go into the basement and they're in the house. The group now. Not because now, see, now we have to keep cutting back between what these boys are doing, which I really don't care about, and what the main group is doing, which I do care about. So it does lose some of its pacing, or
Right.
you know what I'm saying.
It loses some steam in those moments, and the movie is kind of it was really starting to pick up for a minute there, and then all of a sudden, you get these two random characters that just do not excite me. So I'm on the exact same page with this as well.
So as the group is running around trying to find a way out, this is when we see Linda. She's at the end of the group when they're running down the hallway, and she happens to peek into a bedroom, and she sees Steven. And he is on the bed all crunched up, and he is hurt. She's like, Steven, what's the matter? And he's like, oh, I'm hurt real bad. The old lady hurt me really bad. And she's like, well, come out into the hallway. And he's like, no, I can't get up. You need to come in here. And of course, in stupid slasher movie fashion, she does. Knowing everything that's happened, she is trusting that this is Steve, and she goes into the bedroom. And right away, I would look at him and I would turn around and walk out, because there's no way this dude is alive, girl. He is covered in blood. He has literally holes in his chest. His face and neck are sawed. And she's like, oh, I'm so glad you're okay. I'm like, bitch, look at him. He is not okay. What are you fucking, and he's pale. Like you I'm like, bitch.
Yes, it's very clear that he is deceased.
And she's like, oh, it's so glad you look so good. I'm so glad you're okay. Oh my God, Jesus, Linda, you were winning me over there for a minute. Come on.
But I will say what they do with this whole sequence, and here's one thing that I started to notice is some of the death sequences in this, because they are drawn out, you get some of the better acting from the talent, and you also get like some of the most like human moments because of how it's structured with these zombies having personalities, the conversation and the dialogue. This scene with Linda is actually very sad.
It is
like
sad.
She is like portrayed to be a great girlfriend who he even says, he's like, just hold me, and she does, and he's obviously manipulating her.
But he's telling her how great of a girlfriend she's been to him. Like this is some deep dialogue for this that wasn't necessary, but I'm glad they threw it in there because it does give it a warmth and a depth and a sadness, because what he's telling her is, you have always been so good to me. You are a wonderful girlfriend. You always will do anything for me, and I just need you to hold me one more time. You know, I just want you to hold me. And she does. And I mean, he's being sweet. And what does he fucking do? He takes that fucking circular saw blade and stabs her with it in the back brutally.
And she has a very dramatic drop to the ground. You instantly know she's dead. It's a very, like we said, the last death you saw on camera was really drawn out. A lot of these sequences where you have moments between characters and the zombies, they draw it out, which I think really enhances the moment. It adds to it. It adds to the overall kill. And yeah, like this is a very sad kill. I was really thinking for a moment that Linda was going to be stepping it up to the plate because I liked her, and I was bummed. I was genuinely bummed when she bit the dust.
Yeah, and she does it at the hands of her boyfriend who, manipulated her as a zombie. The rest of the group have now found an open window that they think they can escape from, so they run back to get Linda, but now she is in the room with her back turned to them, and they are telling her, hey, let's go. And she's like, oh, I don't know. I want to stay here. And they realize that obviously now her hair is out of a ponytail. It's all like covering her face. Pretty effective because through the whole film, her hair has been in this tight ponytail. And now it's out of the ponytail. It's like surrounding her face. There's blood all over her face. It's a pretty effective shot because you just see her face and the group behind her. And she just has this like smirk on her face. We know she's dead. They don't. But once she says that she just wants to stay there, they kind of realize she is dead. So Bob beats her to death with a golf club.
Yeah, it doesn't take a lot for Bob to be like, all right, I'm swinging. Because like they literally have like a little bit of banter. There's maybe like 4 lines back and forth. And she's like, I think I want to stay here. And Bob's like, fuck it. And he just swings at her head. She drops and they just take off. Like, poor Linda. And one thing that also bums me out about this, and I think it's just because they do the zombies well in this. I like the take. You have maybe like one moment with a majority of the zombies have like one key moment and then they're gone. And I would have loved to have seen
Yeah.
some of them come back a few times. Maybe multiple zombies at once. Things like that. You only get little bits of them here and there, and I would have loved more of some of these characters.
Yeah, the ending of this film, I would say and we're getting there. The ending of this film, the last maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 15, become very repetitive. It's very much the same thing over and over again with no variety, and we'll get there. Now we cut to, they go back to the window. The group goes back to the window, and it's wide open, and they throw a rope out, and Bob is going to climb out the window. So he is halfway out the window. This film loves its window deaths because as he's hanging, he's halfway out, halfway in the window, we hear like this creaking sound, and Jamie looks up and she sees that the window glass has like basically come out of the sill and is like all jagged, and she's like, oh my god, get him out of the window. And before they can get him out of the window, the fucking windowsill drops on him and cuts him basically in half. It goes up and down multiple times, cutting him in half. He is screaming bloody murder, saying like just shit like, this sucks, I hate this, and to the point where the bottom half of his body basically disconnects from the rest and falls to the ground below. And it's a pretty gory, graphic death. This one's pretty brutal, and even on the Blu-ray it still looks pretty good. There's intestines, and he is, again, these actors, you can tell these actors are having a great time during these death scenes because, again, he's another one that's selling it, like screaming shit that I would think you'd probably would be screaming when you were being sawed in half by a fucking glass pane.
Yeah. I really enjoy this kill. I will say it is bordering on humorous because of the dialogue and everything, but it's still a really well executed kill. The movie itself, I mean, it has a few moments that are kind of like dark humor, but I'll say this is the scene that if anything of this felt kind of trauma to me, it was this moment. This was the one thing that made me think, oh, this is a trauma movie. Because other than that, this movie doesn't have a lot of trauma-isms to it. There's no nudity, really. I mean, there's no absurdism in the sense of like really graphic sexual anything or absurd stupid characters, or I mean, it's pretty downplayed aside from the old woman. A lot of these characters feel like real teens or real 20-somethings. So when this happened, it did feel very like Evil Dead almost to a certain extent, with the window just going up and down and up and down. It's a great kill, but it did feel a little almost out of place to me, if that makes sense.
I get it. And yeah, this is a trauma film, and I told you it's a trauma film, but I told you it's not your typical trauma film. And it really is interesting that Trauma picked this film up to distribute, because it is so the antithesis of what they usually put out. Like you said, there's no nudity, there's no real absurdity. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty dark. And we are used to their stuff being the complete opposite. Absurd, silly, goofy. And this one is probably their most straightforward, serious film. And I appreciate that. But yeah, so this kill is probably, it's probably the most memorable of the film, but also, like you said, it kind of teeters on absurdity and humor that the rest of the film really didn't have. Okay, so after this glorious death, now we have to cut back to these two random boys, and they don't even give them names. Well, yeah, one of them has a name, Rick, and I don't know what the other one is.
Eddie.
They never say it.
Isn't the other one's name Eddie?
I know Rick is the one that gets killed here in this scene.
Boring. Yeah, so the other one is Eddie. I swear I heard the name Eddie. So we're just going to say Eddie.
I don't think they gave him a name, but we'll go with Eddie. And it's really interesting that they don't give him a name, because he becomes a very sort of prominent character, which is also odd. But these two random boys go into the bedroom now where the daughter is. Now all of a sudden the daughter is here, and she looks as young and glorious as she did in the 1948 opening scene. She hasn't aged a bit. And she's in her bra and panties, and she's like, oh, you guys are watching me. You might as well come in. So they are more than happy to come in, and they are questioning it. Well, the one is questioning her about, like, why are you in this house? Like, why are you, like, getting naked in this house? And she's like, well, I always get naked before I go to bed. And they're like, where are you going to bed at? And she's like, this is my bedroom. And the one just giggling. He's as giddy as a fucking horse because she's going to take off her bra. And it's a very like drawn out scene where she's unbuckling her bra and he is just giggling, his big toothy ass, ugly ass grin. But then the mother shows up and okay, she scratches him in the face and he dies. Am I right?
Aside from the fact that she really doesn't do anything to kill this kid. I mean, honestly, you're right. Like, it's literally like, poof, magic. He's a zombie. I have a huge issue with the whole structure of this scene to begin with. And because, you know, and not to like break our continuity with telling things in order, but I could have completely done without these boys, and I could have completely done without, honestly, the daughter. I mean, if there's anything that chafes my balls about this movie, aside from the kids, the two kids who get randomly introduced, it's this whole random reintroduction of this blonde who you see sipping that lemonade in the opening scene. And she's very prominent. She's the first thing you see. And then you see this sequence of her being like a seductress and luring the boys into the house. And then after this scene, you never see nor hear from her again. She plays no factor into the film. It is not explained how she's preserved in youth and beauty. It's not explained how she has a very 1980s hairstyle nonetheless. And it's not explained what her purpose even is, how she plays factor. Like, okay, I understand, apparently she hung herself. Well, I'm sorry, she doesn't even seem like the kind of dame who'd be hanging herself after her very elderly mother was killed. And you're telling me that this blonde dug up her elderly mother's body and buried it in the backyard? Like, that's all a lot of nonsense and bullshit. And I don't buy it. I don't believe it. And now that I'm seeing her here, like, I don't even care. And then you're not going to bring her back into the story? What the fuck are you doing? Who's writing this nonsense? It was really, honestly, like, my least favorite aspect of the movie is this whole thing with her.
Well, the problem is, and I said it and I'll say it again, lazy writing, because there is nothing to indicate that this mother and daughter, and it really to me seems like this is like great grandmother and great granddaughter, not mother and daughter, because this daughter looks like she's about 20 and this elderly lady is like 130 looking. So that right there is a problem. But the problem is there's nothing in this film, not even the opening scene, because there's no dialogue between the two of them that let us know that there's any sort of loving relationship between these two characters, to the point where this daughter would be so distraught that her mother died of a heart attack that then she would go dig her up. Which, again, I don't buy, because this woman is very classy, pristine. She's not going to be going and digging in the dirt and then hang herself. That there's nothing that gives us that indication. And it is bullshit. We're on a tangent here, that she does not show up the rest of the film, because there's plenty of opportunity, and it would actually make sense in the last 5 minutes of the film if this bitch showed up with like a fucking axe or something to help her mother that she supposedly loves so fucking much that she hung herself for. But does she? No. So yeah,
right.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. Well, and even and I also won't even say like the way they played the character, like she seems cold and kind of aloof, and like, I don't know, I'm reaching out and grabbing for something. Like, maybe these people have magical powers. Like, I don't know. But like, I don't even believe that they're, like, kind of what you said, working in cahoots, like as like a duo. You never see them together do anything. You don't see them plotting together. No. You don't see them in any way interacting other than the one scene with the body, which is very uncomfortable and disjointed from the rest of the movie. So for her to be reintroduced as this kind of specter or whatever she is, maybe she's preserved in youth. I don't know, because the zombies' lives are going to her. I'm, again, pulling up and just pulling at something, hoping I'm grabbing something that sounds like a semblance of a story. It did not in any way translated onto screen. So whatever the filmmaker's vision was with this, you're right, lazy, sloppy babies. Because if there is a story in there that we're supposed to be picking up on, sometimes you as the viewer can gather it for yourself without getting it spoon-fed to you. This is an example of it just absolutely being lost in translation. I have no idea what she's doing there.
Yeah, I agree. It was unnecessary. And then Rick, and the only reason I know his name is Rick because he stands up all of a sudden And the other kid is like, Rick, you're alive. And then this fucking kid who can't act his way out of a paper bag is like, no, I'm dead. Take a look. And dramatically twists his head to reveal nothing. Like, I didn't see anything, did you? I mean, I saw a speckle of blood. He's like, I'm dead. Take a look. And what am I looking at? You have literally a smear of blood on your cheek. What am I supposed to be looking at? That's showing you're dead? Okay, whatever, Rick. Rick then leaves the room with the blonde daughter. So are we assuming they go to fuck? And guess who else never shows up the rest of the film? Rick. So apparently
they're gone and they're just never seen again.
Apparently they went upstairs to fuck. She's going to fuck this 15-year-old boy. Okay. It's odd. So the other boy, again, I don't know what his name is. We'll call him Eddie. He runs downstairs and it's like pounding on the front door. Upstairs, Ronald hears this and runs downstairs and like they get into this confrontation and this kid, like he grabs him. He's like, who the fuck are you? And the kid is like, no, please don't kill me. It's, it's fine.
And I want to point out that in that moment when quote unquote Eddie, because I'm not even confident his name is Eddie. It's a name. It's a name and we're just going to appoint it to him. The elder woman, whose name is mentioned, by the way, but I just call her elder woman.
It's Abigail?
Yeah. So Abigail lets her daughter, her apparent daughter, or so we're told, and Ricky leave the room. And then she like sits down and she just allows quote unquote Eddie to leave. Like he just kind of goes. Like she doesn't attack him. Yeah. She doesn't pursue him. There's something kind of alluded to the idea that there's an order of people dying. Like what she says to Steve, you're next. But like she doesn't even try to do anything. She kind of just lets him go off and run off. Which leads into this moment with this confrontation with sexy Ron with his big old biceps. So just want to bite into him.
Yeah, and Ron is becoming kind of an endearing character. Again, he's underdeveloped even as he's becoming sort of the, what do you want to say, the lead character. I still think there's a lot of his personality in the characterization that's not fully developed. So it's really hard to form a connection with this character because we're not really given any sort of personality traits that he possesses. And it's interesting because even though he is like this in real life, I mean, the actor is this really buff looking, dude that's in shape. He really doesn't fight back as effectively as I was expecting. And we'll get there. But as he's confronting this Eddie at the front door, he hears Jamie scream upstairs. So he runs back upstairs and she is like now sitting in this room and he's like, oh, are you okay? And she's like, oh, I'm fine. The old lady was in here, but she let me go. She let me be and she left. But in the meantime, we see from the back angle that she has scissors impaled in her back. And he is leading her out and she's like, you lead the way. And so they're going down the hallway and she is like pulling the scissors out of her back and every time she does it, she moans. She's like, oh. It sounds like she's having an orgasm, honestly. She's like, oh. And he's like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. Oh. And she gets him out and she's ready to stab him. And all of a sudden, the kid jumps out with a pipe and bashes her in the head. But then Ron like attacks the kid. And the kid's like, no, she was trying to kill you. Like, look at the scissors. Look at the blood. And Super Jamie attacks him again and she's like putting up a good fight and they're like beating her with this board and like she's kicking them and punching them and there's like you get the whole fake punch stuff that's very obviously they are fake punching and you can completely tell like his fist doesn't even coming towards her like anywhere near her face and she's like oh, flipping her head back. You're like that didn't even kind of
We've been in several of those fights on sets before, and they never really quite hit as hard as you want them to. But there's a few fights in this movie too. Like they kind of go heavy with like the theatrical fighting, and it never really translates very well. There's one little earlier with the older woman that was really weak too. Any of the fight sequences with the old woman and the teens kind of read as just awkward and disjointed. The word disjointed is getting used all over the place today, and I think that's the word of the day. This movie is very disjointed. And this scene right here, this whole thing with Jamie, first of all, she's clearly a zombie. Like, these kids don't know how to tell a zombie from a human. She's milk white. She's being very like obvious about like her dialogue. She's like faking, like she's pretending to be really sweet. Well, Jamie's never been sweet. Jamie's a fucking bitch. So the fact that Jamie is being nice in general is already suspect. But I feel like they make the choice with a few of the characters' kills to, they're kind of trying to like have the audience like play with their imagination and like guess if the person is killed, or I don't know, like they're trying to do something for the sake of the story, like add him like a mystery factor. I think like kind of they did the same thing with Mark when she went to go look for Mark, like what happened to Mark. But honestly, I just want another great kill, because this movie like shines when it comes to these well executed kill sequences, and every time they opt to give a character like one of these like off-screen moments which then reveals them to be a zombie, it is depriving me of a great kill. And it's honestly kind of just like, it feels like a deflated balloon. Like it could have been something way better than what it was.
Yeah, yeah. And the problem is the film now becomes very repetitive. It basically is just one fight scene after another with the zombies. So basically Jamie attacks them. She's getting ready to stab Ronald, and the kid beats her to death with a board. And now, see, Ronald would be dead. Ronald would be dead if it wasn't for this kid. And that's what I'm saying. Like, this kid is literally, 15 years old? And he basically is the one that is saving the day. Ron would be dead.
They're defending each other like lovers. This is where that gay, like when we said like that homoerotic vibe kind of comes into play. Like they are fighting for one another as though they are
very
lovers.
Odd because there are scenes where they are sitting together, like literally like right next to each other. Like the scene after this, they go into the bedroom and they're barricaded in the bedroom and they're sitting really close to each other and they're just like looking at each other. They're not saying anything to each other, but they're like looking at each other lovingly. And I'm thinking, what is the deal? Because this, first of all, I mean, Ron is hot. Okay, yeah. But this kid is like 16, so
yes,
it's kind of really weird. And are we supposed to like get that vibe? Because it just
it gives definite twink.
It just gets stronger. It just gets stronger as the film reaches the end. The bond between these two characters just gets more intense and way more protective.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, especially because like one thing I also acknowledge is they've just dispatched of Jamie, and at this point the two female, like focal female characters, Jamie and Linda, are dead, are zombies, and they never come back into play again. Like after Jamie is disposed of, we don't see anything of the girls. I mean, there's the old woman played by a man in drag, lest we forget. The girls are gone. So all you have left is two final boys up against an array of dead men. And the feminine energy that you often kind of expect with a final girl, or at least with a horror movie, there's always at least one female character that is kind of like the prominent, redeeming, make it to the end kind of personality. You get none of that. And it's just these men, and it is very homoerotic, and not because I want it to be so. It really felt that way. Like it is more so than a lot of the really gay movies that we've watched. It's very protective. It really does almost have like I feel like at certain points we're going into like a twink Big Brother porn. Like it has almost like a porn feel to it in some ways. It's weird. And the scene that you're talking about in the bedroom, the one character starts like nodding off and falling asleep, and that's where I thought he said Eddie. I thought he was like saying his name to keep him awake, and I really swore but the audio, another thing to say about Troma's app, the video quality sucks, the audio is worse. So I could have very well just heard anything and be wrong.
See, I'd never heard a name mentioned at all. Never heard a name mentioned, and how would he know his name? Like there's really not a lot of dialogue between these two characters for them to form like this instant connection with each other that they seem to have. And we do got to give the film props for having two final boys. You know, final boys in horror films are rare. You can count on probably two hands the number of films that have a final boy teacher shortage, but this one has two. So it's really interesting that they went that route. And I mean, I could see the title Dead Dudes in the House, because at the end of the film it really is the men, the guys that become the focus. So, I mean, in that sense, I sort of get the title, but it's still really stupid. So now it's Steve's turn to have his little confrontation with the two guys, the final guys that are left, because he's sharpening his little fucking circular saw blade. He's whistling his tune, and he finds them in the room and like breaks down the door. But in the meantime, is like taunting Ron, calling him like a wussy. Open the door, you wussy! Come on, come on! And I'm thinking, Steve, you were like the wussiest character in this entire film, so you have no business calling anybody else a wussy when the way you acted earlier. No. But he gets in the room, and there is again another sort of fight where the teenage boy has to come to Rob's defense because Ron's defense, because Ron is getting the shit beat out of him by Steve. Steve has this 2x4 and is basically beaten Ron down to the ground and is bashing him over and over again with this 2x4. The kid picks up the saw that Steve had dropped and impales it in Steve's head. And it's a cool effect. It looks a little hokey. It looks a little hokey on the Blu-ray transfer. You can definitely tell that it's just attached like a headband, and you can see like where the blood's squirting out, where they must have had the hose attached. But I can imagine in the darker version, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. This whole sequence. First of all, Steve, I love what they do with his personality when he's in zombie form. He's one of the few zombies you see multiple times. So he leaves one of the strongest impressions, and his banter and his dialogue is pretty great. I would dare say that often points the zombies are the best part of the film because their personalities are just so big. And Steve has this really great moment where he has that saw in his head and he's like dying out and he's like fighting against it. And he looks up at the kid and he says, "I guess the party's over, huh?" And he dies. But like, it's there's so much character to these zombies. You really don't get that with zombies a lot. So I really appreciated that. And yeah, I just think this whole sequence, you're right. It is very repetitive because it is kind of this ongoing thing of, it's like you're playing a video game and you have boss fights. And you go from boss to boss to boss. It's very much the same thing.
Yeah.
At least each zombie's personality is unique. Because what we are about to go into is a sequence with Bob. And same thing. Bob is having the time of his fucking life playing this zombie. He is so fun to watch.
Oh, well, he's put back together now. His guts are all hanging out, but he's put back together and he's drinking a beer. I want to know where he got the beer from, but he is drinking a beer. And when he's drinking the beer, I don't know if you could see it with your particular version that you watched, but in the cleaned up version, when he's drinking the beer, you can see it coming out of his guts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because his whole stomach is open. So I thought that was a cool touch. Mm-hmm. But now it's again, it's very repetitive because now it's Ronald is going to attack the guys and they have to fight him off. But Ronald, he does take it's Bob, right? I'm saying Ronald. That's Bob.
Yes, Bob. Ron is blue shirt.
Ron is blue shirt. Bob is the one now that is going to fight Ronald and the kid. But it's just so repetitive. It's the same thing because now he's fighting them. He does take Steve's body out of the room and like cut the leg off and like throws the leg at the guys.
Well, there's even this moment, like they hear him coming and they see him walk down the hallway. And another thing I like about the zombies is like, yes, they're out to like kill the characters, but they also have like almost an element of cat and mouse where like they go about their business and do their own thing at the same time. And there's this whole sequence where he walks right past them into the room, drags Steve's body out, and he looks at them and he says, "First, I found this dug deeply into Steve's skull. I think that's beautiful." Because they're like these violent creatures, these zombies, but like he pulls out the saw blade and he makes that comment. And I just love that little piece of dialogue. Like, and the way it was delivered, so great. But there's so much character to these zombies. And he has this whole spiel before they go into this big elaborate fight sequence.
Yeah, and I do like that the two final guys, they at this point you can tell they're physically exhausted. And I do like this little touch when they're sitting out in the hallway on opposite sides facing each other, and they look down and they see Bob coming, and you can just tell they're like, "Oh fuck, not again." So they try to get up. You can just tell they're exhausted. They want this to be over with, but it's not. They go into a room and Bob proceeds to hack the door down with an axe, gets in, and again it's another elaborate fight scene where Bob is basically getting the best of Ron. He has him pinned up against the wall. He's like punching him, and Ron is getting a few good punches in, but there is a point where you're like, oh shit, he's going to kill him. But again, the kid comes to the rescue. So the kid hits Bob in the head with a pipe, and then that allows Ron to get him on the floor, and he proceeds to bash his head in with a large statue. But all I want to say at this point is Ronald and his sexy ass better be happy that this kid did get into the house, because he would have been dead a long time ago. And it's just so funny that they bring this character into the film halfway through and make him what seems like now the prominent like final character, but give him like zero personality. Don't even give him a name. It's just real odd. It's really odd. And it feels, I feel like at this point you feel you don't really care. You don't care about who the survivor is, because any characters that really had personality or had anything going for them are gone. Ron is probably the blandest of everybody, because they didn't really give him a defining anything other than like a blue shirt that makes him really easy to point out, and a great pair of arms and a real nice ass. But like, that's literally it. This guy doesn't have anything else that I could even really use to describe him other than blasé. And the kid is, I mean, he's helping with the fights. You're right. It gives, at least I guess, gives purpose to why they got into the building. But there is nothing else. There's no relationship with any of the other characters. I guess you really assume that they just don't know each other. There's nothing to really fight for. There's nothing to care about, So once they dispatch of Bob, they go downstairs and proceed to try to get out of the house by breaking the windows. That doesn't work. But now the old lady shows up. And we are treated to a pretty epic final battle between the two guys and the old lady. I think this is really well done. Pretty effective. She does get a lot of... I mean, there's a point where she's kicking both of their asses at the same time. That's what I'm saying. So in one scene, she's this meek old woman that can hardly walk. And in this scene, she's like a superpower that's just beating the shit out of two guys at once, like grabbing them by their necks, throwing them across the room. She does get the kid and gets him up against the wall, and she has this like putty knife thing that she slices his face open on both sides with, and then she stabs him in the stomach with it. And I'm like, oh my God, this poor kid has dealt with all this shit, and now he's going to be stabbed. But at the same time, Ron hits her with a pole and knocks her off of the boy, because again, Ron needs to protect his twink, right? Knocks her off, and she attacks again and stabs Ron in the shoulder with like this. At this point, there's fucking weapons everywhere. There's weapons everywhere. It's a owl or something that she stabs him in the shoulder with. And then the kid attacks her, and she takes this flimsy piece of wood and hits him with it, and then tries to strangle him with it. And he happens to get a hold of the longest fucking screwdriver I've ever seen in my life.
It is like 3 screwdrivers combined into one. The length of it,
And he stabs it through her ear and through her whole head. And there is a scene where she is just like convulsing with the screwdriver stuck in her head, and you think she's dead, but she's not. She proceeds to pull the screwdriver out of her head and gets Ron and's like slapping the shit out of him. The kid, still alive miraculously, gets an axe, again, because there's axes laying around, there's screwdrivers, there's everything. Everything you could want for a final battle is just right here in this room. The kid axes her in the back, and she's like, eh. Now at this point, when this character the old lady's getting the shit beat out of her, and like they're getting the best of her. Now, wouldn't this have been a good time to like have the daughter come back and like try to protect her mother from being killed?
Yes, exactly. Like, that was really what I was anticipating, was that kind of final layer of exposition. It all comes together. Something's explained. At the end of a lot of classic movies, the villain explains like why they're doing what they do, or you learn something. And there really is, like, as we kind of established already, there's nothing to take away from this. Like, yes, this is the best executed fight sequence, I would say. Though I will say that I think Bob's the best zombie in the sense of his fight is just very like wild and vicious. I like that sequence, but this is a really big sequence. They may have had a small budget, but at least they kind of pulled out all the stops. And yes, literally every weapon known to man. But there was a lot of potential for I guess closure in a way, or just explaining the purpose of this movie, like what the story was trying to tell. They really could have done something, unless maybe they like lost an actor or something. Maybe the blonde just walked off set. I don't know. Like, because there was a perfect potential to add just one more layer to it that really would have just brought it all together, and they just don't take advantage of it. They just kill her off. They kill the old woman off.
Yeah, they do, because Ron proceeds to chop her head off with an axe in a very brutal, graphic scene.
Yes.
I mean, it shows everything. It shows the axe embedded in her neck, and she's like convulsing and twitching, and he like chops her in the neck like 3 different times, and then he kicks her head off her body, and the head flies across the floor to the other side of the room, and it's like on the floor, and it's like screaming and like
wheezing and dying.
It's a very Evil Dead type of death, with this severed head on the floor screaming and moaning. Very Evil Dead.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty effective little scene, little effective gore scene.
Yeah.
So the old lady's dead. And Ron collapses and wakes up the next morning, and it's bright out. All the windows are not open, and the front door is open. So he obviously walks out, and he's outside taking it all in, and he turns around to shut the door. I'm assuming, I don't know why he would turn around. My ass would have just jetted out of there, but he turns back around, and what do we get?
A lover scorned.
A lover scorned.
We get quote unquote Eddie, which probably really is not his name. I mean, you're probably right. Maybe he just doesn't have a name, but random teenager number 2, who has become a very prominent aspect of the film, is now a zombie. And he's standing there with the axe, and he raises it high above his head, and in one final gay scream of agony, Ron yells at the top of his lungs, "No!" And that's the motherfucking end of the movie, and I've never been more pissed off in all of my life.
Yeah, I was wondering about how you would take the ending. I personally am never a big fan of a film that kills off like the final character. I don't like that. But in this case, it's just even more infuriating, because it seems like it's not even the person that kills him. You know what I'm trying to say? It's not even like part of the original plot of the film. Like, it has nothing to do with everything that we've been introduced to in this film so far, which is really the old lady and the daughter. I would still hate it, but I would hate it a little less if it was like the daughter, right? That would make sense to me.
Yeah.
But to have now random, whatever, Eddie, Johnny, Steven, who knows what his fucking name is, to do it, it just seems like unearned. Particularly because this character was introduced 50 minutes into the film with nothing to do except to act like the hero through the parts that he's in. And now you're going to have that person kill off what was ultimately the final boy. It just didn't sit well with me. Like I said, I would have much preferred, if they were going to do it, for it to be the daughter or, something like that.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with what really irritated me is your whole purpose of apparently bringing this character in was to assist in the survival of what has become the final boy. That's the only purpose of that character. So now to have him thus in the end be the character or the entity that disposes of him, it's like, well, what's the fucking point of having had him get through the whole night with this kid's assistance? The only reason he made it out alive after several encounters, this kid helped him multiple times, helped kill the old woman, and died, unfortunately. But then you're going to have this one character make it out alive, and that's what you're going to give me? Is why even have him assist up to the point that he does? It just makes it feel really like one big letdown. It's just a big womp womp. It was like a Debbie Downer moment, you know?
It is a downing. It's a downer ending. I think they were trying to go for like shock value or you know, a twist.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work for me, particularly
Same.
because nothing about this film is explained.
Right.
So, but with that said, this film is entertaining as fuck. And I could
Yes.
watch this film multiple times and be equally entertained. I do feel like the ending does get a little bit repetitive and the beginning is a little bit of a rough start. But what this film has some very effective scenes. And again, entertaining as fuck. And despite its shortcomings, because it definitely has them, I don't think you can find a film as entertaining as this in terms of, you know, a late 80s slasher slash zombie entry. This one is just fun to watch if you can put aside all of the ridiculous unanswered elements of it, but that should come to no surprise considering it is a trauma film. I mean, this is the same company that put out, you know, Class of Nukem High and this ridiculous shit that is just brainless entertainment to sit back and watch.
Yeah, I think one thing I took away from this movie is it's a movie. I mean, it's as indie as they come. And the flaws and the shortcomings are very obvious. You see them. But also when they succeed, when they accomplish certain things, it's all the more impressive. So for everything that sat poorly with me, and there's a fair share of things that I didn't really enjoy about this movie, I still really enjoyed the movie overall as a full entity because I think that it's really impressive what they managed to pull off. And yeah, I think you're right. It's extremely entertaining. Like, what a popcorn flick. I really want to see it in a higher quality because I'm just curious to see how some of these makeup effects and gore effects translate. And even if they don't translate that well, it's almost that much more endearing, all things considered. I just think that, unfortunately, some of the more amateur elements of the film, the storyline especially, and how they treat some of the characters, those weaknesses are just really clear and evident as the movie progresses. But it's got a series of really great kills. It's got some really fun effects. It's got some really fun, unique takes on the zombie lure and how they approach it. So yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. Even with my multiple complaints, I still come away from this with a fondness for this film.
I agree. I have a huge fondness for this film, which is why I chose it. Despite my complaints, but that's what we're here for. That's what we do on the podcast is we take a look at these films and we examine them through sort of a critical lens, an entertaining critical lens. And, you know, I think despite everything, I still think this is a film that's entertaining that I have a fondness for. And like I said, I could watch this film. I could go put it on right now and be entertained by it. It just has a high entertainment value. I think that the film ended up being way more entertaining than it probably deserved to be, considering I do think a lot of the amateurish elements of the film are very apparent. But I think what saved this film is that it was made with a lot of heart and passion, and you can completely tell that the cast was having a great time. The time of their lives making this film, and I think the filmmakers were having the time of their lives making the film. So when you get that combination of people together that are really enjoying the process of what they're doing, it's going to translate well on screen, and I think it does in this case. You can tell the film was made with a lot of heart, and I appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm happy we watched it. I think it was a great choice. I like that it's one of those more obscure titles. I know sometimes we're hesitant to pick those because you never know how the fans are going to respond, but I think it's been pretty clear that there's a fair amount of listeners who enjoy this title. I completely understand why.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was Dead Dudes in the House, aka The House on Tombstone Hill, aka The Dead Come Home.
Yes,
so
yes.
What is you know what our next episode is, Roger? No, it's a milestone. Do you know what it is?
I do. Next episode is our 30th
big
episode. It's a big 3-0.
Big 3-0.
And you know what's also really awesome, aside from it dropping the week of my 35th birthday, is the fact that it's also our full year anniversary. Like, we launched a year ago next week.
with Hell Bent.
We did it.
Hell Bent.
With Hell Bent, yes.
And I was looking at the list of films that we've covered, and Jesus Christ, this year we've covered so many films this year. I was going to make a post of all the films that we covered this year, and it's been, I mean, we've covered like 23 films since January. The first film we covered this of 2021 was Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2, and that seems like ages ago. I mean, ages
a classic.
ago.
One of our best episodes. If you haven't listened to it, go back. Please treat yourself. If you have listened to it, go back and treat yourself.
So that's what we're, guys, because there will probably be a little bit of a lag in when our next episode is released, because like I said, I'll be on vacation, but we will get it out probably early the next week. So you can expect like a kind of a week lag. We hate doing that, but in this case, we're letting you know. And then we'll get back onto our regular weekly schedule, because we have been really consistent at getting these episodes out on a weekly basis, which I love. And, so if you are missing us within next week, go back and listen to some of our earlier episodes if you haven't listened to them. We have so many out there now. I mean, this is our 29th episode. So, catch up.
Catch up. You got some catch up.
Speaking of, Roger, we know what our next episode is, right?
Mm-hmm. We do. Well, there's a few things that I find pretty exciting about our next episode. Aside from being our 30th episode and celebrating our big 1 year anniversary. How romantic, Troy.
I know.
1 year together. So for my birthday, I decided I wanted to have a guest. I thought, what better reason to have a guest? And so I extended an invitation to a very good friend of mine, one of my closest friends and a great talent. Next week, our guest will be the astonishing Caitlin E. Newberry. Caitlin is one of my closest friends, and she's an amazing actress. And horror fans, you're probably going to know some of her credits. She's been in a few movies with me, but she's been in a lot more movies aside from that. She was recently in the movie Widow's Point, which has gotten a lot of attention. She's the female lead in that. She's in Lake Fear 3. Who doesn't love Lake Fear 3? She's in Mother Krampus 2 and The Curse of Lilith Ratchet with me, the latter in which we play lovers. That's believable. But she's honestly, she's got an insane resume, and she keeps on working within the genre. And she's just a great person and a great talent. She's hilarious, so I think you guys are going to love her. And she's an amazing actress, so I thought it would be really wise to pick a title that is a horror movie rooted really in, I would say, the performances, the strong performances, an actor's horror film, if you will. So I decided, because I like to assign a film that our guest has not seen. I find that more exciting and get their honest, fresh feedback on it. So I picked for Caitlin the 2002 indie classic, and I mean that, directed by Lucky McKee. We have May. May starring Angela Bettis, Jeremy Sisto, and Anna Faris in what I think is probably her best performance. I love this film. I know Caitlin has not seen it, and I think she will love it too, because she's a little dark, a little edgy. And honestly, this movie, now going back and thinking of last week's episode, I kind of get a little bit of Pieces vibes, all things considered, with the conclusion of Pieces. I think this is kind of like a really cool follow-up when you think of the similarities between the two. I just think this is a great movie, though, and I think Caitlin is going to love talking about it. So I think it's like the perfect fit.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I love May. That's all I'm going to say right now. Because, I actually had the pleasure of interviewing Lucky McKee for my site, for my blog that I used to run, frightmeter.com, and it should still be up. So if you go to frightmeter.com and there's a link at the top that says interviews, I interviewed Lucky McKee about this film and The Woman that he directed, that came out with Pollyanna McIntosh. So check that out. So I have a really strong connection with this film, and I love it to death. I think Angela Bettis was robbed of an Oscar nomination for this film by far. And so we are going to have a wonderful conversation about this film. And I'm assuming Caitlin is going to enjoy it, but if she doesn't, that'll even make for a more interesting conversation. So
if she doesn't, we'll scorn her and we'll say, get off of our show.
We'll shame her. We'll turn off her mic.
Shame. Absolutely.
But I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be great. And I think that it's, honestly, I'm a little more open to like leaning into some of these more. Not saying that May is obscure, it's not. But I think that it's one of those movies that like you have somebody who's getting more into mainstream horror and they're just not going to think to look into some of these titles. I want to make sure that new generation is aware of some of these indie classics like May that really don't get the recognition they always deserve, because I think it's fucking iconic and should be widely acknowledged as one of the better horror films of the 2000s. So yeah, I think it'll be a great conversation. I'm very excited to discuss it with you, as always.
Okay, well, you have something to look forward to, guys, in just over a week. Like I said, this episode, the May episode, will probably be out not next week, but the following week, midweek, early that week, once I get back and get settled again. So in the meantime, like I said, go listen to some of our past episodes. Get caught up and watch May if you haven't seen it. And of course, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we will be back with you very soon with May and Caitlin Newberry.
I can't wait. See you guys soon. Another year older. For my birthday, make sure you give me a gift. Leave us a review.
Woohoo. All right. We will talk to you later.
Bye.